Welcome to Rooted and Rising, a soulful podcast hosted by Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone. Join the conversation as Dr. Cheri and Ellice explore the transformative power of holistic healing from the inside out. Together, they guide listeners through the deep work of reconnecting with their roots, uncovering the unconscious wounds that shape us, and rising into the fullness of our higher selves. So please, welcome the hosts of Rooted and Rising, Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone.
Hello, welcome to Rooted and Rising. I'm Dr. Cheri and I'm with Ellice Boone. You know, I can love someone without carrying them. What does that bring up for you as you think about that? Today we're going to begin a journey, actually a two-part journey, hopefully, about a subject that's become really personal to me, that's outgrown from my work as a therapist. As we shared, I've been a therapist for over 44 decades, and a lot has evolved during that time. I've sat with people from transitional issues to heartbreak, to major trauma, to natural disasters, relationship issues, all walks of life. It's been very fortunate. And it's an unfortunate journey, and I've been enriched with so much wisdom and roller coaster and joy and pain. And so, but for years, I thought, being really good at what I did meant helping people heal their broken hearts. And I still think that's a worthy thing to, none of us want to walk around with a broken heart, correct? But, I knew how to hold them. I knew how to help them. I knew to see what was hurting. And I became really good at caring, you know, but through my journey, I found that holding someone and carrying someone are two different things. And that's what we're really going to talk about today. What is the cost of caring and what is the value of holding? When I got that realization, it changed me. It changed me how I did therapy. It changed how I led people. It changed my marriage. It changed my motherhood, my friendships, my love. And because I'm learning, I can love without caring. I can lead without controlling. I can remain deeply connected to someone within myself without abandoning who I really am. The realization of forming into, all kinds of images of that hopefully we're going to use today as metaphors, parables, to kind of give us some language on what the difference is, because I have found that it can be really subtle. And we women, if we think about it, we're born to carry. We carry creation in our womb, and we're going to talk about that. And so knowing, discerning the difference when our heart is so invested in another human being, is hard sometimes to see. And so hopefully we can do that. And so the image we're going to talk about is the protector, the bridge, the heart, the womb, and the tree. And so, and these again, just help us give some kind of language to navigate through a story of finding ourselves and, the journey of rooted and rising. And so I'm excited to address these issues, and I love to, hear your thoughts about this, Ellice, and how this is kind of interweaved in our work already, and we're kind of both on a high, and I'll let you kind of launch into that, and we can talk about more how manifesting this is just so wonderful.
Yeah, thanks, Cheri. I am definitely on such a high. We just came from our retreat this past weekend, and we were texting yesterday, you and I, just saying how we both feel more whole, more healed, and just like we're both glowing with all of this energy, because to watch women in their transformation, to watch them arrive one way and leave looking like different humans is so rewarding and soul filling. I just can't explain. There's nothing in my life that I've ever done that has felt this beautiful and meaningful and given me so much excitement because we get to play with creativity and all of the things that we talk about on the podcast are basically applied in real life, and we get to see them work with people and move through their process in their life. And so it's absolutely beautiful. Um, and this theme that the podcast is about, the next two episodes, is this download that you had, Cheri. And I remember reading, everything that you wrote on this walk that you had. And it was all of these symbols that represented this journey, kind of giving people a roadmap to follow. And it took me a while of reading it for it to really soak in because there's so many layers to it. And I hope we can relay it in a way that is digestible for people who are listening. But yeah, we're starting here with the basic, which is what we're carrying as women, especially. But what are we carrying, and what are we ready to kind of set down? And I think we all are carrying things that are not ours. Looking at you being in therapy for 40 years, I can only imagine all that you were trying to carry for your clients. And to step away from that and know that you can love them and hold them and sort of guide them through a path without having to lift them up and try and move them. That's a massive difference. And it makes a difference on us as women as we go through our lives with our partners, with our children, with our parents, with all relationships. If we can learn to love without giving away ourselves completely, then we can really continue loving and giving from a full cup instead of trying to pour this empty cup that has nothing left in it. So that's what we're diving into today, and I'm excited for it as well.
And I thank you for sharing and the way you shared it. This is such a heartfelt passion for me when it came to me. But as Elise shared, it's almost like I'm still trying to put it in cognitive terms. There are so many layers to this, and so it's like it's vibrating through my whole system and my whole body, and I don't know how to convey it, but I feel like I can't wait to convey it, any longer either. So Elise is going to help navigate us through this in really talking about, there is such a tendency to confuse um, love with caring, being needed with caring, being important with caring, being responsible with caring, being purposeful with caring. And but they are not synonymous, and one sabotages the other actually, and we don't even recognize that happens. And so, I think it's, how do we discern between, when we're helping doesn't, when we can help without caring, how do we know to do that? Like you said, it's such a burden. I professed for within those decades. I love my work. I loved my work. I love my work, and it was like my play field. And looking back though, in those earlier years, I could see where I carried what was not mine to carry. And so, how does that what does that look like, Elise?
Mm.
Maybe in terms.
Yeah, that's such a good question because I think it looks really different for each individual. And what we want to come to here is identifying what is burdening us, what feels heavy in our system. One episode we talked about energy drain. And so noticing after we're with someone who we feel like, oh, but we're being so helpful. Okay, but how does our energy feel after that interaction? So having a baseline of where we know we feel we're at this like homeostasis, we feel good here. This is our true self. And then noticing how these interactions or these times that we're trying to reach out and help or rescue or be there for someone, how do we feel energetically? And that's a really good gauge for myself to understand if I'm carrying too much. If I walk away and I just feel really heavy, not like, yes, a friend is going through a hard time and it hurts my heart and I feel sad, but it's something I'm carrying and it's carrying through days after and I'm just feeling heavy and weighed down, then that is something to look at. It's something that we need to notice when these things are affecting us in a way that's different from just having compassion for someone.
That's
So that's
And then I think it made me think of another one is I feel like some people, they don't notice the heaviness, and almost the opposite, you become numb or dissociated. Like you don't even, you want to escape in daydreaming, or you want to, you forget what you were going to do the next moment, or you get into a game on your phone, you don't realize it's been 2 hours. All those probably are signs that you're carrying, because it's very difficult when you carry to be present, because you've given so much of your sense of self that really isn't to be given away, and you did it. And that was another example that I just thought of as you were talking. It's like carrying other people's emotional baggage for them, and then the damage is that they don't get to do it themselves. They don't get to resolve that for themselves, that they need to do that, and you don't even know you're doing that with good intention. And those are the extremes of enabling and codependency. But we're not really talking about codependency or enabling. We're talking about a much subtler, everyday, interaction that we have, that most of us will find times where we carry people, and not know we're doing it, to become more aware of that. And it's usually when it takes us out of being present.
hmm yeah, so true. And I think too, noticing the numbing out, noticing, and that can look like you mentioned, just kind of going to those things that feel like we just need a break. We need a break from life. We need to, and those things aren't bad in themselves, to scroll on the phone or to watch a movie. But when
Right.
you start getting into those spaces where you're going to that to just disconnect from your life and you can't be present, that's when you want to take a look at what is it that's, that you're holding that feels so heavy that you need to take a break from that by numbing out and pulling yourself out of the present and into something else to distract you from that.
Hmm. 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 And so, a lot of times we develop ways, this caring occurs when we're more in the survival mode. And the survivor mode, we talk a lot about it. It can feel like we're trying to put a roof over our head. That is survival. We're putting food in our mouth. That is survival. We're trying to stay out of danger. That is survival. But other survivor modes is, in our process of learning and growing, into our, what we think are, the roles that we take on, that are really good, the roles we want to take on. And so then and this is where the protector comes in. It kind of, the protector is not something bad at all. It can be our engine to get us functioning, at high functioning and success. Like it's a part of us that gets promoted. It's a part of us that gets through school. It's a part of us that raises our families. It's we are accomplished. We also can anticipate everyone else's needs. We can keep the peace. That's a protector. We can, and we never ask for help. And so then we take on these roles of, or these identities of, the strong one, the caretaker, the achiever. Everyone loves to be a peacemaker, the good girl, the perfect one. I'm someone, I got it, I got this, I don't have, I don't, we don't appear that, it doesn't appear that anything's wrong, because nothing really is wrong, but they work until they don't, you know, um, until we do kind of, um, what, collapse, maybe they we just lose that presence. And then we may find ourselves not being able to engage in the joy of life.
Mm.
And so I want us to kind of think about, during this break that we have, of what is my protector? What is, and begin with the roles that you play, and see it as your friend, and just, it's not as bad, but be curious about it. And we'll get more into this after the break. We'll see you in a minute.
Mike Zorich, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorick, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorick has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to Root and Rising, Dr. Cheri and Ellice. Before the break, we're talking about our protectors, and I asked you kind of reflect, what do you think your protector is? And we talked about that maybe, that they worked. They're not a bad thing. Maybe they were helpful in creating a sense of belonging. Maybe success created approval. Maybe being invisible created a sense of safety. Taking care of everyone else kept your family functioning, which is for us women, I think is so important. Maybe being scared, kept you safe. Maybe being easy meant nobody got angry at you. Maybe being needed, no one even, and never needing anything from you kept you protected from being a disappointment to anybody, and even to yourself. But so we're not here really to get rid of the protector. I want you to, I'm not looking to make her enemy. She deserves to be a lot of gratitude. She was such a teacher for me throughout my life, and she helped me figure out a lot of things and brought me right where I am right today for all of us. So I want that. That's really important. The very thing that helped me, though, survive, it came to a point where it's preventing me from fully living. And that's what I want you to think about. This chapter, and we all have chapters of life and evolving. So, at least I'm curious, did you think and identify a protector during the break? And, and was it easy for you to recognize her? And what do you think you learned from her that you needed from her? Or do still need from her?
Yeah, I think that, like you said, through different chapters of my life, I've had different protectors for different reasons. The one that came up the quickest was the peacemaker and the people pleaser. And like you said, those things don't sound bad, but in previous stages of my life, that people pleaser was really detrimental to me because it always put my needs in beneath everyone and everything else's. And I understand why I did it. And I can, give love to that part and thank that protector for working so hard to make sure I belonged, make sure I had value, make sure I was loved and not abandoned, because those were those core wounds that I had. And so I just was hyper vigilant on keeping friendships to like even friendships that weren't working or even were toxic, and putting their needs in front of my own to make sure that I stayed in that relationship because it was just so important for me and that protector not to lose those people, because losing even one person in my life was like losing the world. It just felt like I was being abandoned all over again. So it's interesting because, like you said, on the outside, it could have looked like I was just a really friendly person with a really big group of friends, and no one would know underneath that I was truly suffering because I never met my needs. I was constantly exhausted. And I just went from person to person trying to please everyone and make everyone else happy. And so it took me a long time to realize that I needed to give at least as much as I was giving to everyone else to myself, that I needed to take time for myself, that I needed to have opinions and preferences, and those were worthy of being spoken. And that conflict or having any sort of contention in a relationship did not mean that that relationship had to end or it was the end of the world. So I stopped avoiding those conflicts and started facing them head on and realizing I could move through those with friendships that cared enough to put in the work to move past those conflicts. So it was a long process of sort of that protector quieting and this other side of me taking the lead, being able to say, it's safe to do this. It's safe to have conflict resolution. It's safe to tell people no. It's safe to not be available all the time, and it's even safe to lose friendships, to move separate ways in life, and for relationships to shift and change. That doesn't mean that I've lost my value. It doesn't mean that I don't have love in my life. So that's been many, many years just to say that. It's not something that happened overnight. It's been sort of these threads coming through and me understanding, giving those protector parts of me a lot of love and respect, and letting them know it's time to sort of take a seat, and I've got it from here and we're going to be okay.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I love the fact how you shared, you didn't seek to get rid of her. You just quieted her down and made room for, you beyond survival. And so that is so important. And as you blossomed into a beyond survival and that identity, you're able to, like you say, that you didn't lose anything. You actually increased the love and authenticity of your life, and your relationships. And that's what I want people to hear. So that was beautifully said, that we're not looking, again, our protector is not our enemy. We needed her. So and she's still there in a subtler form as we grow beyond survival. So I like people to think about this, again, more pondering, but this time I like to ponder it through and just kind of let it set, why you now um, deepen this more
Mhm.
and embody the message that we're sharing.
Yeah, so we'll go into this meditation. I think this is a bit more of a visualization for people to contact this side of yourself. So I want to invite you to sit or lie down in a quiet place where you can be undisturbed for the next few minutes. And to start, we just like to come back to our breath, just noticing our breath, noticing its natural rhythm as the belly rises and falls. And then inviting in here a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Doing that again, really deepening in that inhale and allowing the exhale now to be very slow, really intentionally slowing that exhale down so that as you do, your body softens. And just noticing your body in this moment, noticing how it feels, either sitting on the chair or lying on the floor, just taking note without judgment. In this space, I want to remind you that there's nowhere that you need to be. nothing that you need to do. And as I walk you through this visualization, there's nothing you need to force or fix or change. We're just here to let the imagination tell the story in your mind's eye. To just take a moment to listen to that inner voice and allow whatever the body or the mind, that internal landscape, whatever it wants to paint a picture of, to allow that to just unfold softly, naturally, without forcing it. So imagine here with me that you are walking on a path. That path can look however you want it to. Just imagine yourself as you're walking on this path. You start to see someone off in the distance. And as you continue walking towards them and they start closing the gap between the two of you, you see that this person is actually you. Now notice what they look like. As they draw closer, start taking in the details of your face, of your posture, noticing how old you are if you have an age. Noticing the clothes that she's wearing or he, and just noticing who she is, how she comes off to you. Now imagine that this version of you is the protector. This is the one who took on a role to protect you, to be there for you, to help you through difficult times. Maybe she became this protector and that made her strong. Maybe this protector made her quiet, maybe a perfectionist. Maybe it made her successful. Perhaps she seems almost invisible or very independent. It could be any of those things. But what did she learn here? What did she do to protect you? What were her ways of protection? So noticing as you look at her, what she seems like as a person. And now I want you to ask her a question. And as far as the answer goes, allow yourself to feel, see, or hear whatever arises. Ask her, what were you trying to do for me? Allowing time here to listen. And if she's responded here, go ahead and ask another question. What are you afraid will happen if you stop? Just listening, noticing. And if an answer comes that feels clear, make sure we aren't protesting this answer. Make sure we're not arguing with her or him on what this answer is. Because this was learned at some point in your life. It was learned what they were trying to do for you and why. So noticing this and having understanding around this is really important. Now, if this feels right for you, I want you to move in closer to yourself and tell them what they'd like to hear in this moment. Tell them what they need to hear from you. Maybe it's simply, I see you. I understand. Maybe you feel ready to tell them, thank you. Thank you for protecting me. Whatever it is, allow yourself to say this to this past version of yourself. And now ask them, do you still need to work this hard? Again, not forcing, just allowing. And lastly here, maybe you want to reach out and give this version of you a hug. Maybe place a hand on the shoulder, just letting them know that it's all good and that you've got it from here. And as you look ahead beyond this version of you, in the distance you see a bridge. This bridge is like a possibility or a threshold. It's something that you don't have to cross yet. You're just noticing that it's there. And you can walk on this bridge on your own, or this version of you can come with you. But going forward, I'll ask that you ask that version if you can lead, if you can take the steps forward, and it can follow behind you. Now, as you come back into the space, gently flutter your eyes open. Maybe take a moment to write some things in your journal. We're going to go to our break. We'll be right back after this.
Mike Zorek, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorek, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorek has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
Hi, welcome back to Rooted and Rising. You're here with Elise and Dr. Cheri. We just went through a visualization to meet that protector part. So Cheri, I know you always follow along and do the meditations with us. How was that for you? What came up for you?
Wow, I thought it was beautiful again. And what came up for me, I'm a little bit aware of um, my protector, and she has been the strong one. But what came to me is um, um, her development is she learned that doing was really important, doing towards achievement, doing towards loving, doing towards everything versus being, and that therefore letting go of her would, when you do, it means failure. And so that I think the fear for a long time was there was, not doing wasn't an option, because you can't fail everybody. You can't fail someone, and you don't want to fail yourself. And so through the crossing, standing at that threshold, that bridge would be let go of doing, which is performing, it's expending energy, it's really putting myself aside, and by thanking for all the achievement that she gave me and the strength. I still want the strong one, but be able to cross that threshold and lead the way, and it is a partner with love, hugging her and loving her, being, and becoming became a possibility. And that is really what life is about. And I think I've shared before in episodes, I love the bridge. I love that image. And when I go running, especially in new country, new land with Mother Nature, I go through the mountains and I look for, or on the beaches, I look for a bridge. And sometimes they're man-made bridges, sometimes they're nature bridges, sometimes they're a tree that fell down, across the Gulf, but becomes a bridge for me. And I always stop and I consider them transformational bridges. And these bridges them alone have helped me, recognize and come and meet this identity and this strong one and this protector. And so I really, it's not a big thing. It's, if we can stand, create some kind of image, and the bridge doesn't demand anything of us. It doesn't. It just simply makes passage possible, moving forward possible, transformation possible, and we don't have to know what's on the other side. And a lot of times when we're doing, we want to know exactly where we're going. And but we know, we've talked about in episodes before too, is the only certainty in life is change. So if we can just be present and walk across the bridge knowing uncertainty is ahead of us, in the smallest ways, not humongous ways. Like I'm saying, this is everyday life, just making these little shifts. They say 1 degree change is ginormous in our trajectory of freeing ourselves in the direction we want to go. So it's just allowing us to ask questions like, am I ready, to make a change? And am I ready to leave behind what no longer serves me? Am I ready to forgive? And a lot of times it's about forgiving ourselves, which why we make it so difficult to do, I don't know. But it's a humongous challenge to forgive ourselves. And are we ready to confront, like you say, confront things and recognize when we have confrontations, the love doesn't go away. Actually, it pretty much grows because the confrontation that is a barrier and we don't even recognize. Are we ready to start over? And become someone different in a way that we haven't before. So, the it doesn't have to be like a gigantic step forward over this threshold that is a bigger step than we want. It can simply be a gentle question, of not like, am I willing to look? Am I just willing to look? Am I willing to, see something I haven't been able to see before within myself? And that's all it has to be. Am I just willing? So that's what I got from it, as well as the imagery, is my passion.
Yeah. Yes, it is. And I love how you bring symbols into your life and practices in everyday life, like the fact that you go out and you search out bridges that you can cross over. And you don't just search them out to cross over a bridge because it's cool, but because this symbolism has become something in your life that's meaningful and you've created that. So it's like before you cross over this bridge, you bring awareness to it. You think, what am I leaving behind? What threshold am I about to cross? What am I going to see on the other side? And we can all do that in life, whether that's a physical bridge or just visualizing one in our mind. And these practices of visualizing or finding a bridge out in the world and stepping over it, it creates sort of this practice in motion of this, what's happening internally for us. And it gives us something to say, okay, what am I leaving behind? What do I no longer need? And then how am I intentionally stepping over this bridge? And what is this threshold? What is this bridge that I'm crossing? What is the choice here in my life that I am deciding on or that I'm moving through. And so that's why visualizations are really powerful, and practices in real life are even more powerful because it involves the whole body at that point. We are taking these physical steps, and we can imagine with each step, those are each choices, or those are steps closer to our goal and our path. So I love that. I love that you brought this in because I would have never thought of it. And I just think it's a beautiful practice and a beautiful visualization to help us get to where we need to be mentally.
Well, thanks. I think about children are such teachers, and they are so free with their creative imagination, and they use pretend all the time to teach themselves how to engage in the unknown. And that is through images and symbols, and they will create masterpieces out of rocks and sticks. It's just so wonderful. And stories, through paper dolls. I mean, it's just really great. So maybe it's just tapping into the child within us, and not be afraid, exploring something that we don't know, and recognizing that a lot of times when we think we start going somewhere, like exploring something new that we don't know, we're going there and be called to that something new, whether it's a symbol, a ritual, a thought, a prayer, a urge to pray, a song, a vibration, all these things are, I think, we're drawn to because maybe underneath it all, we already do know. And we just need to go back to what we know, and that's where I go back, is to remembering. We all carry, we carry our body, like I said before, our record keepers, and finding a way to tap into what we already know, and what we're creating is what's so exciting. And that's another way, that once we can acknowledge, maybe I do know, choices open up and become possible. Choices that we were once maybe frightened to do or frightened to look at, aren't frightening anymore. And we can engage in life, and then responsibilities of life, like you say, they don't have to, they rise above survival, and that protector can just pat us on the back and say, go for it, girl. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. And I go back to the visualization for just a moment. At the end, you know how I spoke about that protector perhaps following us instead of leading. And that's an important piece to acknowledge and within yourself, is that perhaps this protector has been taking the lead for a while now. And so respectfully asking that version of you to take a back seat, to allow you to lead, to trust you to lead. And you don't have to leave these parts of yourself behind to grow and to move forward. They can come with you. It's just that they can't be the one in charge. You have to be the one in charge. And so that's what we're doing with this visualization of the bridge and the protector, is taking this version of you, allowing it to walk behind, and then saying, what are these choices? What is this bridge representing in my life? What is this threshold that I'm crossing over into this new version? And then can I walk this with my protector behind me, still taking in, the fact that it was there for a reason, that it had value, but now it's ready to take a back seat to this new version of you and how you're leading towards your future. So
I love it. Yes. I and that just means like possibilities opening up. And if even we go back to, watching children in their pretend, and how much is all done in joy. And I think sometimes we get stuck in the protector role, we can lose joy. And because almost puts us in a robot mode. That's what survival, level does. And this kind of arises out of that, and the burst of the opportunities for joy and love just grow and grow. And so I would like people to think about that for a moment too, I think it'd be a good time to just take a break again, and for people to use this time to reflect for a moment on what, crossing that bridge is joyous. So we'll see you in a moment.
Master of words, powerful player, What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom, purpose, passion, power, and peace. All quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously, with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Hi, welcome back to Rooted and Rising. I'm Elise, and this is Dr. Cheri. So, Cheri, can you maybe just kind of give us a summary of what we've just discussed? If there's any points that were left out that you want to touch on, let's just give our listeners like the meat of what we just said in short form.
So hopefully we can do that, but really, when this all comes down to the symbols aside, however you see things, it really goes back to our power of choice. Choice isn't about rejecting who we've been. We want to be gratitude with every part of ourselves. It's about discerning what still belongs, and so these, have become words of the bridge to me, like I cross with intention. Like I say, it's my transformational bridge. So I stand at it and I cross with intention. I leave nothing behind that still belongs to me, and I carry nothing with me forward that I no longer can use and I no longer need. And so for me, the strong one doesn't have to disappear. Strength may still belong. So maybe she doesn't need to be strong every minute. And the caretaker doesn't have to disappear. Caring may be one of my greatest gifts. And so this is us expanding, and perhaps you no longer have to earn belonging by taking care of everyone else. Achievement doesn't have to disappear. We don't want to stop. Achievement is beautiful. We don't want to stop achieving, but accomplishment no longer has to prove our worth, and we aren't abandoning these parts of as a woman. We're choosing we're changing their jobs. We're changing their priority. And that's what life does. We evolve, right? It's called evolution. So with gratitude, like you say, a hug her, bring her along, thank her for bringing you where you're at right now. And you don't have to be led anymore. That's basically what it is. And so, when we begin to take in the power of choice and choose, we become ready for something else. And we cross the bridge. And on the other side isn't something perfect either. We're just headed to a version of ourselves, an evolved version to ourselves, and something much more intimate into the heart.
Mhm.
And that's where we'll begin with part 2.
Yes, beautiful. I can't wait to discuss part 2. And I just want to add one little tidbit in there because as you were speaking, it sort of bubbled up for me. And that is we have these parts of ourselves that we're learning to see, we're learning to love and respect and understand. But because they're not leading us, we're no longer doing those things like achieving, making friends, people pleasing, peacemaking. We're not doing them because we think we're not enough. We're not doing them because we think we don't have love. And so by removing that motivation, we can do those things from a much clearer, cleaner place. And that's what I've seen in my life, that I can now build friendships, like you said, where I'm not afraid of conflict, and they're so much deeper and they're so much stronger because of that. And because I can speak up and say my needs, and in turn, I would say all of my friends can do that with me as well and feel safe to do so. We just have a much better relationship. So it's really beautiful to see how that works in real life, to know that that has truly worked in my life, and that on the other side of letting that protector rest, I've been able to find new heights of friendship, new versions of myself that are just so much stronger and clearer, and the place that I'm coming from, the intention behind what I do, it means so much more because it's not coming from this place of lack. So just wanted to
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. So maybe now you can lead us through a couple of journal prompts. So I think this
yes.
is great for that.
So to go deeper, we have journal prompts for kind of each of these parts that we talked about here. For the protector, if you want to go deeper on that, you can ask yourself in your journal and just free write to, who did I learn to become in order to survive, to belong, to be loved, or feel safe? And then what were they trying to protect? So you can write about that and go a little bit deeper there. With this bridge or this threshold that you're crossing over, ask yourself, what am I willing to see that I haven't been willing to see or able to see before? And then finally, with a choice at that bridge, that choice point that you're at, there are 3 journal prompts here. What am I carrying simply because I've carried it for so long? What am I ready to put down? And finally, what do I consciously choose to carry across the bridge? So I hope that those give you something to just really sit with, write about, read what you wrote, and just a greater understanding for where you are right now in life. And if you're moving through something that feels like a bigger choice, a bigger transformation, a bigger transition, take your time here. Give yourself the gift of really exploring where you're at before you move forward with that choice. I guarantee that taking the time, you will not regret it. Going deeper, you will not regret it. You will feel so much more confident in taking your steps over that bridge into this next place in your life. And yeah, thank you so much. So if you've enjoyed our podcast today, we encourage you to please like it, follow it, tell your friends about it. If you're curious about our incredible retreats, please reach out, stay in touch with us, send us questions. We read everything, and we're just so excited to be on this journey with all of you. So until next time, stay rooted.
Keep on rising.
That's right.
Love you.
We love you.
This has been Rooted and Rising with hosts Dr. Cheri and Ellice Boone. Through honest conversation, clinical insight, and creative reflection, Dr. Cheri and Ellice will empower you to reclaim your voice, your vitality, and your vision. This podcast is not about quick fixes. It's a return to deep knowing, gentle unraveling, and lifelong integration. Tune in each week, Wednesdays, 12 noon Eastern.